The first thing I noticed was the coffee stain. Not the people, not the missing floor on the directory, not the fact that nobody on the 37th floor ever spoke. Not once. Not even when I just about ran the vacuum under their chairs. The coffee stain. I cleaned it 12 times. The last time I was on my knees with a stiff brush, industrial spot remover, and a towel over my shoulder working at that thing like it had personally insulted my mother. I got it out. I know I got it out. The carpet was damp but clean when I stood up. The next night it was back. Same shape. Same pale edge. Same little tail running toward the baseboard, like a drop had tried to escape. That was how floor 37 started with me. Not with screaming, not with a dead body, not with anything a man could point to and say, there, that is where the world split open. Just a stain that refused to be cleaned. I cleaned office buildings in Manhattan for more than 20 years. I cleaned floors where lawyers left whiskey glasses hidden behind potted plants. I cleaned floors where finance guys spilled protein shakes into trash cans and pretended the smell was someone else's problem. I cleaned floors where advertising people wrote ideas on glass walls in marker and then forgot half the glass was transparent. You learn a lot about people when you clean up after them. You learn who lies about quitting smoking. You learn who is having an affair. You learn who eats dinner at their desk every night and who keeps a birthday card from 3 years ago pinned behind their monitor because maybe it was the last nice thing anybody gave them. Most people think cleaners don't notice anything. That is why we notice everything. I took the overnight shift at the Calder building the summer my daughter got into college. Binghamton. She called me from her mother's apartment, crying and laughing at the same time. And I stood there in the break room with one glove on and one glove off, trying not to cry because another guy from the crew was heating up dinner in the microwave next to me. I told her I was proud of her. Then I asked my supervisor for nights. Overnights paid more. Not a fortune. A few dollars an hour, enough that if I picked up extra shifts and trimmed the fat here and there, I could help with books, maybe groceries, maybe a little emergency money so she did not have to call me embarrassed because a lab fee surprised her. That is how fathers do math. We look at our bodies, our knees, our sleep, and then we divide them into payments. The Calder building was one of these midtown towers that looked expensive without having any personality. 40-something floors, dark glass, lobby with stone walls, polished so clean, they made everyone look tired. A coffee shop in front that closed before dinner. Security desk shaped like a bank counter. The tenants were what you would expect. Law firms, consultants, a private equity company, some media agency with posters of campaigns nobody remembered. People in nice shoes who wore badges on lanyards and walked fast while staring at their phones. My assignment ran from 29 through 36. That was important. I was not assigned to 37. No one was. On the lobby directory, it went 35, 36, 38, 39. No 37. At first, I figured it was one of those building things. Some buildings skip 13 because people are superstitious. Sometimes 2 floors get combined because they have a single tenant using both. Maybe this one skipped 37 for rich person reasons I did not need explained to me. I had cleaned a building once where the owner refused to let anybody call a conference room B because his ex-wife's name started with B. People with money are superstitious in more expensive ways. My supervisor at the time was a woman named Denise who had been cleaning Manhattan offices since before I was married. She could tell what kind of tenant was on a floor by the trash. Lawyers threw out paper, finance threw out food, tech threw out cardboard, media threw out feelings. On my first week, she walked me through the elevator bank and pointed out the service elevator, the supply closets, the trash rooms, the floors with sensitive offices where we needed to sign logs. When we got to the panel, she tapped 36 with her fingernail. Your run stops there. I saw 38 on the directory, I said. That's another crew. What about 37? She looked at me, not scared exactly, more irritated that I had asked. If the elevator ever opens on 37, she said, you hit door close. I waited for the rest of it. There wasn't any. That's it, I said. That's it. Bad tenant? Carlos. She said my name the way mothers say a child's name near traffic. So I nodded. I had been working too long to make trouble over a floor I was not paid to clean. For almost 2 years, 37 stayed a joke in my head. The elevator never stopped there. The button did not even light when you pressed it. I tried once early on just to see. Nothing happened. 36 lit. 38 lit. 37 sat there dark under my finger like it was painted on. Then, one night in late summer, after a rainstorm had turned the lobby mats black and heavy, the service elevator stopped between 36 and 38. The doors opened. I was standing there with my cart angled sideways, mop bucket rattling against the wall, one hand on the handle of the vacuum. For a second, I thought I had reached 38 by mistake. Then I looked at the panel. 37 was lit. The hallway outside looked normal. That was what bothered me later when I started trying to remember the moment as if memory could become evidence if I stared at it long enough. It was not dark. It was not old. It was not covered in dust. It did not smell like mildew or smoke or mold. It looked like every other corporate floor in the city. Gray carpet, frosted glass, a reception desk nobody was sitting behind. A large logo on the wall made of brushed metal letters that did not spell any company I recognized. The kind of logo designed to make you feel like intelligent people were being paid too much in the next room. Beyond the reception area, I could see cubicles. Rows and rows of them. And every light was on. I heard typing. Not loud. Just a soft, dry clicking of keyboards. The hum of printers. Air conditioning. Someone's chair creaking. Normal office sounds. Only there were too many of them for that hour. I should have hit door close. I know that. Denise had told me exactly what to do. But I had spent 2 years walking past a missing floor, and there it was, open in front of me, bright and clean and boring. Boring is persuasive. People think danger announces itself. It does not. Most of the time, danger looks like something you can explain later. I stepped out. The reception area had a shallow bowl of wrapped mints on the desk, a stack of visitor badges, a small sign asking guests to please wait to be greeted. No one greeted me. Through the glass partition, the office stretched almost the entire length of the building. Hundreds of cubicles in straight rows, all the same low gray walls, all the same rolling chairs, all the same flat monitors, glowing pale blue and white. People sat at nearly every station. They were not doing anything strange. They were answering emails, editing PowerPoints, updating spreadsheets, reading PDFs, moving little boxes around on graphs, reviewing documents with red comments in the margins. One man had a slide deck open with a bar chart and the words Q3 efficiency opportunities at the top. I remember that because it was so stupidly normal. No chanting, no strange symbols, no one standing in a circle, just office work. At that hour, the city outside was all reflections and rain. Inside, everybody worked as if morning had never ended. No one looked at me. I pushed my cart a few feet onto the carpet. The typing continued. I cleared my throat. Nothing. I said, "Cleaning service." Nobody turned. A woman near the aisle reached for her mouse without looking away from her screen. A man farther down rubbed the back of his neck, then kept typing. Someone clicked through a presentation one slide at a time. I almost laughed. I thought Denise had built up some mystery around a floor full of consultants pulling an all-nighter. That was all. People do ridiculous things for deadlines. I did not clean much that first night. I walked the perimeter, emptied 2 trash cans near the copy area because they were full and because my hands wanted something familiar to do. I noticed a coffee stain near the west cubicles and thought, tomorrow somebody's going to complain about that. Then I left. When the elevator doors closed, 37 went dark on the panel. By morning, I had mostly convinced myself it was nothing. That is another thing people do. We file away what does not fit because we still have to pay Con Edison. The next night, curiosity got the better of me. I pressed 37. The button did not light. I pressed it again. Nothing. Fines, I said to the elevator, because I talk to machines when they annoy me. I went to 36 and started my regular run. But on the way down, after I had tied off the trash and wiped the conference tables and cleaned toothpaste out of the sink in the men's room because grown adults cannot be trusted with toothpaste, the elevator stopped. 37. Doors opened. Same reception area, same mints, same visitor badges, same bright office beyond the glass. This time I rolled my card out. No one stopped me. No one asked for ID. No one said, "Wrong floor." I cleaned. Not the whole place. That would have taken hours. I did what I would do if a floor had been added to my assignment without paperwork. Obvious trash, pantry, copy area, main aisles. The people ignored me so completely that I began to feel like I was cleaning around furniture. You get used to being invisible in my line of work, but this was different. On other floors, people tried not to see you. There is a difference. They looked away too quickly or lifted their feet for the vacuum without making eye contact, or said, "Thanks, boss," in that voice men use when they do not know your name and do not intend to learn it. The people on 37 did not look away. They did not seem to know there was anything to look away from. I passed close enough to one woman that my sleeve brushed the back of her chair. She did not move. She had red hair tied in a ponytail, bright enough that it caught the fluorescent light. Her shoulders leaned toward the monitor like she was reading bad news. A few cubicles down sat a man with thinning hair arranged around a bald spot in a perfect little swirl. He scratched the back of his neck, opened Outlook, and began typing. Farther along, I saw a blonde bob cut, so even it looked measured, with a ruler. Across the row, a person with long dreadlocks typed faster than anyone I had ever seen. Near the windows, a man with a buzz cut drank coffee with his left hand while scrolling. I did not know their names, so my mind gave them names. Red ponytail, balding swirl, blonde bob, dreadlocks, buzz cut. That is how it works when you clean offices. You know people by what face is away from you. Their hair, their shoulders, their habits, the way they leave a chair, the shape of them at a desk. A few nights passed like that. I told myself I was being useful. An unassigned floor full of employees still made trash. Somebody had to empty it. And if no one complained, then maybe no one cared. The coffee stain bothered me. The stain was in the aisle near Red Ponytail's row. Every time I pushed the vacuum pass, I saw it. Dark oval, pale rim, little tail toward the baseboard. On Friday, I sprayed it. Saturday, it was back. I thought someone had spilled coffee in the same place. People are creatures of habit. Maybe Red Ponytail was clumsy. Maybe Balding Swirl carried his coffee badly. Maybe there was a tiny dip in the carpet that pulled liquid into the same shape. On Sunday, I worked at it properly. Brush, bleach, towel, patience. It came out. Monday, it was there again. Same little tail. That was when the floor stopped being funny, but not scary. Not yet. Just irritating in a way I could not shake. There is a special kind of anger that comes from doing a job well and having the world pretend you did not. I had felt it before. Every cleaner has. You scrub a sink until it shines, and 10 minutes later someone leaves beard hair in it. You mop a lobby, and the next person tracks rain across the marble. Work disappears under other people's living. But this was not that. This was exact. The same stain in the same shape. So I tested it. I took a black marker from a supply drawer and made a tiny dot on the carpet beside the stain, right where the pale edge curved inward. Small enough nobody would notice unless they knew to look. The next night, the dot was gone. The stain remained. I stood there with the vacuum cord looped around my hand, staring down at the carpet. Behind me, keyboards clicked. Red ponytail typed. Balding swirl scratched his neck. Blonde Bob tilted her head at an email. Dreadlocks typed so fast the sound almost became rain. I did not tell anyone. What would I have said? There is a floor I am not supposed to clean, and the coffee stain there has a better memory than I do. I kept working. That was my habit. When something confused me, I worked. My mother used to say, a moving broom gives the mind something to chew on. After the stain, other things began showing themselves. The coffee ring on the pantry counter returned no matter how thoroughly I wiped it. A dead leaf lay under the ficus near the copy machines every night. I picked it up. It came back. There was a fingerprint smudged on the copier glass. I cleaned it. It reappeared. A blue paperclip sat in the same place under a desk near the aisle. I threw it away. The next night it was back, open slightly at one end, like a tiny bent arm. One monitor in the back row sat crooked, turned a few degrees too far left. I straightened it. The next night it was crooked again. A trash can beside a cubicle contained the same crumpled wrapper from a turkey sandwich, the same yellow sticky note torn in half, the same empty seltzer can. At first, I thought people were making the same messes every day because office workers are, in some ways, the most predictable animals on earth. Then I started checking. The sticky note had the same rip. The seltzer tab was bent at the same angle. The sandwich wrapper had a smear of mustard in the same corner. Nothing I cleaned stayed clean. Nothing I moved stayed moved. By the end of that first full week, I understood something I did not want to understand. Floor 37 reset itself. Not completely. Not in any way a person would notice if they only walked through once. The lights stayed on, the computer stayed on, the work continued. But the physical details returned each night like the office was restoring from a saved file. The stain, the leaf, the crumbs, the dust, the fingerprint, the paperclip, the trash. All of it came back. And still the employees worked. I began to take comfort in them, which sounds strange now, but people can get used to almost anything if it repeats. Red ponytail was always there when I came in, leaning forward like her screen was pulling her by the collar. Balding Swirl always scratched the back of his neck before opening his email. Blonde. Bob always tilted her head to the right, then the left, like the words might make more sense from another angle. Dreadlocks typed in bursts, paused, then typed again even faster. Silver Braid sat near the windows with her posture perfectly straight. Curly hair always leaned on one elbow. Buzzcut drank left-handed coffee. None of them spoke. None of them looked up. None of them left. But after a while, their silence felt less like a threat and more like weather. I started greeting them under my breath. Evening, Red. No answer. How we doing, Swirl? Typing. Don't work too hard, Blonde Bob. Nothing. It was not because I expected them to respond. It was because talking made me feel less foolish for caring whether they were there. Then Red Ponytail disappeared. I noticed before I noticed the empty cubicle. That is the part I still think about. I came off the elevator with my cart squeaking, and my eyes went where they always went first, west aisle, third row, halfway down. Red hair should have been there. She was not. Her chair was pushed in. Her monitor glowed over an empty keyboard. For a moment, I felt embarrassed by how sharply it bothered me. I did not know this woman. I had never seen her face. For all I knew, she was unpleasant. Maybe she stole lunches from the fridge. Maybe she talked over people in meetings. But she had been there every night. And now she was not. I stood beside her cubicle and looked down. The mug was still there. The notebook. The pen angled across the page. A spreadsheet on her monitor with columns highlighted in pale yellow. On the desk, a small desk fan faced her chair. It was running. Turning back and forth, blowing air across a place where no one sat. I told myself she had probably just gone to the restroom. Then I remembered no one on 37 ever went anywhere. I finished the floor quickly that night. The next night, someone sat in Red Ponytail's cubicle. A man with dark hair cut close at the sides. I had never seen him before. He typed with 2 fingers and kept his shoulders hunched up around his ears. The mug was different. The notebook was different. The spreadsheet was different. But the cubicle looked settled. Lived in, not new. There were papers stacked neatly beside the keyboard. A framed photo turned away from the aisle. A cardigan draped over the back of the chair. As if he had always been there. I looked one cubicle over. Blonde Bob's chair was empty. Monitor on. Keyboard waiting. No blonde hair. No tilted head. Just a hollow square of gray carpet and fabric walls. I did not move for a while. The typing went on around me. That was when I first saw the pattern, though I did not trust it yet. Yesterday, Red Ponytail's cubicle was empty. Today, it was filled. Today, Blonde Bob's cubicle was empty. The vacancy had moved. Not the furniture, not the desk, the absence. I went home that morning and did not sleep. My daughter called after lunch to ask if I thought she could find a used copy of a biology textbook online for less than the campus store wanted. I tried to sound normal. I asked about classes. She told me about a professor who said attendance was optional and then took attendance anyway. I laughed in the right places. All the while, I kept thinking about Blonde Bob's empty chair. That night, I brought a small notebook. Nothing fancy. The kind you buy in a 3-pack at a pharmacy. On 37, I drew the cubicles. Badly. I am not an artist. Boxes in rows. A line for the main aisle. X for occupied. Circle for empty. I marked Blonde Bob's desk with a circle. The next night, Blonde Bob's desk had someone new in it. A woman with short gray hair and narrow shoulders. She was reviewing a PowerPoint deck about vendor consolidation. Balding Swirl's cubicle was empty. I felt something sink inside me. Not fear exactly. Recognition. The mind hates randomness. It will forgive almost anything if it can put a pattern around it. But there are patterns that do not comfort. There are patterns that close around you. I marked the notebook. The night after that, Balding Swirl's cubicle was occupied by someone with thick black curls. Then Dreadlocks was gone. The night after that, Dreadlocks was replaced. Then Silver Braid was gone. Every night, exactly one. Yesterday's empty desk filled by someone new. Another familiar worker missing. A new empty cubicle left behind. Always one vacancy. Always moving in the same direction. Desk by desk. Row by row. No one reacted. No one paused. No one looked at the empty chair beside them. The office continued around the absence as if people were no more permanent than coffee rings. I began to understand why the floor was so clean. Not clean the way a good cleaner makes something clean. Clean the way a machine is clean. Maintained, restored, corrected. The stain returned because the office wanted the stain there. The dead leaf returned because the dead leaf belonged there. The paperclip returned because the paperclip had a place. But Red Ponytail did not. Blonde Bob did not. Balding Swirl did not. People could be replaced. The coffee stain could not. I know how that sounds. I know. But I also know what I saw. Around the middle of the second week, I started watching the news differently. Not big news, not politics or weather. The little items, local stories. Missing woman, last seen leaving office near Bryant Park. Man failed to return home after work in Midtown. Paralegal missing after late meeting. Financial analyst not seen since Tuesday evening. New York swallows people every day, and most of the time the city barely hiccups. But once you are looking, the missing begin to gather. I saw the first poster in the subway. A woman's face printed in color, taped crookedly to a tile wall near the stairs. The paper had gone soft at the corners from damp air. She had a neat smile, small hoop earrings, and short gray hair. I knew the back of her head. She was sitting in Blonde Bob's old cubicle. She had appeared the night after Blonde Bob vanished. I stood in the subway while people moved around me, annoyed, bumping shoulders, dragging bags. Missing. Last seen leaving her office after work. Please call. The train came in with its hot metal roar, and the poster fluttered against the tile. I missed that train. At home, I searched for her. Then I searched for the man with dark hair who had taken Red Ponytail's place. Then the woman with black curls. Then others. It was not always easy. I did not know names. I had only hair, posture, sometimes a glimpse of a profile reflected in a dark window. But missing person pages have photographs, and photographs give you the front of someone you only knew from behind. Each match felt like a small private collapse. The man with dark hair had been a junior accountant in Queens. The short gray-haired woman worked in compliance. The woman with black curls taught 8th grade math in Brooklyn. That one broke something in me. She was not even an office worker. Not before. But on 37, she sat with perfect stillness, building a chart in Excel like she had been doing quarterly reporting her whole life. That was when I understood the office was not waiting for employees. It made them. Or maybe it accepted them. Or maybe those are the same thing if you are tired enough. I thought about telling Denise. Then I imagined her face. I imagined myself saying, "The missing people are working on a floor that does not exist." I imagined losing the overnight shift. I imagined my daughter calling about rent, books, food. So I kept my mouth shut. That is the ugly truth. Fear was not the only thing that kept me quiet. Money helped. Responsibility helped. Love helped. There are traps that look like choices because someone you love is standing on the other side of them. I did not quit. I told myself I was gathering information. That if I could understand it, maybe I could do something. But I did not call the police. I did not take photos. I tried. My phone showed nothing useful. Empty cubicles, blurred light. Once, a photo of Red Ponytail's replacement came out as a bright smear, like the camera had focused on dust. Mostly I drew maps, rows and boxes, circles and arrows. The vacancy moved with patience. It did not hurry. That made it worse. If something runs at you, you can run back. If something crawls toward you 1 inch per day, you waste a lot of time telling yourself you still have time. I learned the sequence. I knew by Thursday which cubicle would be empty on Friday. I knew who would be gone before they were gone. That became the worst part of my nights, though I would not have called it that then. I would push my cart out of the elevator, hear the keyboards, smell warm toner from the printers, and look for the person whose turn it was. Sometimes I would stand behind them longer than I needed to. Not close enough to scare them if they could be scared. Just near. A man with a clean buzz cut, left-handed, drinking coffee. A woman with silver braids sitting straight as a ruler. a young guy with curls leaning on his elbow while he edited a slide title from strategic alignment to cross-functional alignment. I would think, you. Tomorrow it will be you. And they would keep working. I started talking more. Quietly. Go home, I said once to Silver Braid. She did not move. Come on, I said, you don't have to finish that. Her fingers rested on the keyboard. On her screen, a spreadsheet cell blinked. I wanted to shake her chair. I did not. There are lines you do not cross until you are sure the world will still be there when you cross them. The next night, her cubicle was empty. The night after, a stranger sat there preparing meeting notes. The office had accepted the change without a ripple. By the beginning of the third week, I stopped sleeping in any useful way. I would lie in bed after my shift with the blinds half lit by morning and see rows of cubicles behind my eyes. My apartment was small and ordinary and messy in human ways. Dishes in the sink, shoes by the door, a stack of mail I kept meaning to open. I began to love the mess. I did not pick up a receipt from the kitchen table for 3 days because I wanted to see it stay where I left it. When my daughter called, I tried to keep my voice steady. She was happy, busy, tired in the way college students are tired, which is partly real and partly pride. She told me about a girl on her floor who labeled all her food and then ate everyone else's. I laughed. She said, "You sound exhausted, Poppy." "I'm on nights," I said. "That's the job." "Don't kill yourself for me." Children say things like that because they do not yet understand that parents have already made certain decisions. "I'm fine," I said. That evening before work, I almost turned around at the subway stairs. Almost. Then I thought about tuition. I thought about the way my daughter had cried when she got accepted. I thought about the envelope from the school sitting on my kitchen counter. And I went in. The Calder lobby was polished and empty. The night security guard, Malik, sat behind the desk watching something on his phone with one earbud in. He was a big man with kind eyes and the permanent exhaustion of someone working 2 jobs. I paused by the desk. "Malik," I said, "you ever been up to 37? His eyes moved from his phone to my face. The kindness left them slowly. "There's no 37. "I know what the directory says." "Then why are you asking?" The lobby hummed around us, elevators opening and closing, air through vents, far outside, a horn. "You ever see people come down from there?" I asked. He put the phone face down. "What?" He stared at me with hard eyes. "I'm just asking." "No," he said. "No, you don't see them?" "No, I'm not talking about this." He looked toward the elevator bank, then back at me. "Whatever you think you're doing, stop." That should have been enough. It was not. I wish I could tell you some noble reason. That I went back because I wanted to save someone. That I had become brave. The truth is uglier and smaller. I went back because the pattern had moved too close, and I needed to know where it ended. That night, the empty cubicle was in the last row before the main aisle. The next night, it moved to the cubicle beside the supply closet. Then to the one across from the little HR office I had barely noticed before. I call it HR because that is what it looked like. Small glass-walled office, filing cabinets, a desk with an old badge printer sitting on it. On every other floor, badges came from security downstairs, but 37 had its own machine. Of course it did. By then, most of the workers I had nicknamed were gone. Red ponytail, blonde bob, balding swirl, dreadlocks, buzz cut, silver braid. All replaced by strangers who sat comfortably in their places and worked through the night. The office felt the same. That was the sickness of it. The same stain, the same paperclip, the same mints in the reception bowl, the same fluorescent brightness, the same warm smell of printers, the same low endless typing. Only the people changed. And because no one spoke, because no one called anyone by name, because no one laughed or argued or asked about lunch, the replacements almost worked. Almost. If I had not been a cleaner, maybe I would not have noticed. If I had only visited for a meeting, I would have seen an office. Quiet employees, late night, nothing more. That thought troubled me more than anything else. How many places like that exist because nobody is paid to look closely on what should have been my last normal night? The empty cubicle sat nearest the entrance aisle. Nearest me. I stood beside it with my hand on my cart. The chair was pushed in. The monitor glowed softly. There was a keyboard, a mouse, a stack of documents, and a clean black phone. No dust, no crumbs, no sign of whoever had been there before. A vacancy waiting politely. I knew what would happen next. The following night, that desk would be filled. Someone new would sit there already working, already absorbed. And somewhere else, I looked around. There was nowhere else for the vacancy to go. I checked my notebook with hands that had begun to shake. Rows, boxes, arrows, circles. I had not made a mistake. The vacancy had moved through the floor in order, one cubicle each night, and now it had reached the end of the sequence. The office had counted down every desk, every person, every place, except one. I did not clean that night. I stood in the aisle while hundreds of people worked around me and felt something patient turning its attention. Not quickly, not hungrily, but administratively. That is the closest word I have. Administratively. Like a form had finally reached the top of a stack. I left before finishing my shift. No one stopped me. At home, I sat at the kitchen table until morning with my shoes still on. I called in sick the next night. Denise did not ask questions. Cleaners get sick. Cleaners get tired. Cleaners hurt their backs and twist their knees and wake up with hands that will not close. The system accepts absence better than it accepts explanation. I told myself one night away would break the pattern. That was childish, but I needed a childish thought. The next evening, I stayed home. I watched television without understanding it. I heated soup and let it go cold. I called my daughter and got her voicemail. I almost cried when her recorded voice said, "Leave a message." I did not. Near midnight, I found myself standing by the door with my jacket on. I had not decided to go. My body had. There are some questions the mind cannot leave unanswered because the not knowing becomes its own kind of room. When I reached the Calder building, Malik looked at me for a long moment. "You shouldn't be here," he said. I know. He did not ask why I had come. Maybe he knew there was no answer that would help either of us. The elevator ride felt longer than usual. 36 passed. The elevator stopped. 37 lit on the panel. The doors opened. The office was exactly as it had been. Of course it was. The reception desk, the mints, the glass partition, the carpet, the fluorescent lights, the typing. I pushed my cart out because habit is stronger than fear. The empty cubicle nearest the entrance was occupied. A man I had never seen before sat there in a blue dress shirt, typing slowly. He had sandy hair and a slight forward hunch, as if apologizing to the screen. On his monitor was an email draft with a subject line about revised deliverables. He looked settled. There was a mug beside him, a notepad, a phone, a framed photo turned away from the aisle. The office had filled the vacancy. I stood behind him and understood that someone had disappeared. But I could not find the new empty cubicle. I walked the aisle. Slowly. Every desk was occupied. Every chair held a worker. Every monitor glowed. Every keyboard had hands above it. No vacancy. No empty place. The pattern had completed itself and the office was full. For one strange second, relief moved through me. Then a machine began to hum inside the little HR office. Softly, mechanically. A printer waking up. I turned toward the glass-walled room. The badge printer on the desk blinked with a small green light. I watched it pull in a blank white card. The office kept typing. The printer clicked. A line of plastic emerged. I should have left then. There was still time. The elevator doors were behind me. Open or closed, I do not remember. My cart was by the aisle. My keys were in my pocket. My legs still belonged to me. But I walked into the HR office. The badge slid out halfway, then all the way. It dropped into the tray with a soft little tap. I picked it up. It was warm, not hot, just warm from the machine, the way fresh copies are warm. At the top was the same brushed metal logo from the reception wall. Below it was a photograph. Me. Not a picture from my driver's license. Not from my work ID. Not anything I had posed for. It was me in my blue uniform, looking slightly past the camera, with the tired half smile I use when someone says, "Just one quick picture." Under the photo, Carlos Alvarez, Department Operations Employee. Since tomorrow, I read it twice. Not because I did not understand. Because I did. The typing stopped. All at once. Not fading. Not one person after another. Every keyboard on floor 37 went silent at the same time. The air conditioning hummed. Somewhere, a printer settled. I stood in the HR office holding my warm badge and looked through the glass. The first chair turned. Then another. Then another. Rows of office chairs rotated slowly toward me. No one hurried. No one smiled. No one pointed. Hundreds of employees turned away from their spreadsheets, their emails, their PowerPoint decks, their charts, their contracts, their meeting notes. For the first time, I saw their faces. They were ordinary. That was what I could not bear. Not dead, not monstrous, not empty in any theatrical way. Just tired. The kind of tired I had seen on trains before sunrise. The kind of tired people carry home after giving too much of themselves to something that will not remember them. Red ponytail was not there. Blonde bob was not there. Balding swirl was not there. Or maybe they were. Maybe I would not have known them from the front. Every face looked at me with the same quiet expectation. Like co-workers waiting for a meeting to begin. Like there was a seat somewhere with my name on it. Like the office had finally finished onboarding me. Anyway, thanks for listening. I spend most nights working while everyone else is asleep, so it's nice knowing somebody's out there on the other end of the story. If you'd like to hear another one, I'd be grateful if you subscribed.